Most gardeners think mulch is mulch, but this one choice can quietly make or break your soil. And today, you'll find out which material actually wins. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe to the Evergreen Garden channel, leave a comment with your own mulching experience, and share this with another gardener who's still guessing instead of testing. Now let's get straight into the truth about newsprint versus cardboard, because one of these is doing far more for your soil than the other. Why this mulch debate matters more than most gardeners realize. Mulch is not just about weed suppression or keeping soil moist. It directly controls microbial life, soil temperature, oxygen movement, moisture balance, and long-term carbon storage. Choosing the wrong sheet, mulch, can actually slow decomposition, lock up nitrogen, create those pesky anaerobic layers, or even repel water. It's something a lot of gardeners overlook, but it really does make a difference. On the other hand, choosing the right one can speed soil regeneration faster than compost alone. It's honestly quite remarkable how much of a boost the right mulch can give your garden's soil. Now, newsprint and cardboard might look similar on the surface, but underground they behave very differently. It's a subtle distinction, but it's an important one for anyone serious about improving their soil. So let's talk about what newsprint actually is and how it behaves in soil. Modern newsprint, you see, is made from low-density wood pulp with short fibers, and, it goes through minimal processing compared to cardboard. This really matters because soil organisms can break it down quite quickly. When it's laid correctly, newsprint begins softening within just a few days, allowing fungi and bacteria to colonize it rapidly. Earthworms can move through it without being blocked, which means nutrients cycle instead of, stalling. So, in practice, newsprint acts as a temporary weed barrier and provides a quick carbon input to your soil. It's important to note that it doesn't form a sealed layer, which is quite beneficial. Once it's wetted, water passes through newsprint really easily, and air exchange remains active as well. This makes newsprint especially valuable in beds where soil life is still being rebuilt, or in spots where you're planting quite frequently. Now let's talk about what cardboard really is, and, why it behaves differently underground. Cardboard is thicker, denser, and it's often layered with adhesives that actually resist breakdown. Even plain brown cardboard, takes much longer to decompose because the fibers are compressed and bonded. When laid flat, it can actually create a near-impermeable barrier for weeks or even months, depending on moisture levels. This can be useful in extreme weed situations, but it does come at a cost. Cardboard slows oxygen movement, delays fungal colonization, and can, at least temporarily, create anaerobic conditions beneath it if the soil is already compacted or wet. So earthworms often avoid it until it starts breaking down, and honestly that just delays nutrient cycling. Let's talk about weed control performance and where each material really shines or, fails. Cardboard wins the short-term weed suppression battle, no question about it. If you're dealing with aggressive perennial weeds like couchgrass, nutsedge, or bindweed, cardboard can knock them back hard, especially when it's overlapped generously. So, newsprint will suppress annual weeds well, but it does struggle against deeply rooted perennials unless you layer it quite thickly. That said, long-term weed control is not just about blocking light. Healthy soil biology naturally suppresses weeds by occupying ecological niches. Newsprint supports that biological competition faster than cardboard, which is why, beds mulched with newsprint often show fewer weeds after one season compared to cardboard beds that stay biologically quiet for too long. Soil life response reveals the shocking winner. Here's where the battle is decided. Soil is alive, and mulch that feeds life always wins in the long run. Newsprint breaks down faster, feeding bacteria first, then fungi, then higher organisms. This staged decomposition mirrors how natural leaf litter works. Cardboard skips this rhythm and delays the process. In side-by-side garden trials, beds mulched with newsprint consistently show more worm activity within 2 to 3 weeks, while cardboard beds may take, 2 to 3 months before showing similar life. That difference compounds over time, leading to better aggregation, improved drainage, and, higher nutrient availability. So water movement and root growth are both really influenced by the type of mulch you use. Water infiltration is absolutely critical, especially in areas where rainfall can be a bit unpredictable. Newsprint, it tends to absorb water quite quickly and then releases it slowly over time, which helps keep the soil surface evenly moist. Cardboard, on the other hand, often sheds water until it's completely saturated, and that can lead to runoff and dry pockets forming underneath. Root behavior really mirrors this. Plants that are rooted under newsprint tend to spread outward and upward quite naturally. Now, under cardboard, roots often grow sideways along the barrier instead of actually penetrating upward into those nutrient-rich zones. This, in turn, slows establishment and reduces resilience, especially during periods of heat stress. So here's the correct way to apply newsprint for maximum results. For garden beds, 3 to 5 layers of newsprint is the sweet spot. That works out to roughly 2 to 3 millimeters thick. Always soak it thoroughly before covering it with organic mulch like straw, leaves, or wood chips. A top layer of 5 to 8 centimeters of organic material prevents wind movement and, speeds decomposition. Around vegetables, just leave a small gap around stems to avoid excess moisture. In perennial beds, you'll want to overlap sheets by at least 10 centimeters to prevent weed gaps. Replace or refresh once per growing season if needed, though, honestly, many gardeners find that one application lasts the entire year. So, when does cardboard still make sense, and how can you avoid its drawbacks? Well, cardboard definitely has a role, but it must be used strategically. It works best for initial site clearing, especially where the soil is heavily compacted or overrun by invasive weeds. If you're using cardboard, you'll want to puncture it every 20 to 30 centimeters with a garden fork to allow for air and water movement. Make sure to wet it thoroughly before covering and, never use glossy or heavily printed cardboard. It's really best to limit cardboard use to just one-time applications. In future seasons, follow up with lighter mulches like newsprint or leaf litter to help restore soil dynamics. The shocking winner, and why serious gardeners should care. The shocking winner is newsprint, not because it blocks weeds better, but because it builds soil faster, feeds life more effectively, and integrates seamlessly into regenerative systems. Cardboard feels powerful, but power without balance actually slows progress. Newsprint works with the soil instead of against it, and honestly, that difference becomes obvious after just one growing season. Gardeners who are, focused on long-term fertility, reduced inputs, and resilient plants, well, they consistently move away from cardboard and toward lighter, biologically friendly mulches. The soil tells the story clearly. If this guide helped clarify your mulching strategy, do consider subscribing to Evergreen Garden for more no-nonsense soil wisdom. And, share this video with a fellow gardener who still swears by cardboard alone, and drop a comment with your own results or questions. Healthy soil is built layer by layer, and honestly, the right mulch makes all the difference.